My name's Amanda. I'm 21 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I've lived under the shadow of my older brother. Henry is 2 years older than me, and in my parents' eyes, he was untouchable. He was their golden child, the math whiz who won academic competitions with ease. Meanwhile, I had to stay up late studying just to scrape by with average scores. My parents never pretended to treat us equally. When Henry turned 16, they surprised him with a brand new car. 2 years later, on my birthday, I got a bicycle that was on clearance. I pretended to smile and said thank you, but deep inside, I was heartbroken. The only person who ever made me feel like I mattered was my grandmother. She remembered every birthday. She gave me a little money when she could. And most importantly, she promised that when I went to college, she'd help me financially. That promise was the light at the end of the tunnel through all of high school. Eventually, I got into a university in another city on a partial scholarship. I moved into a dorm, hopeful and scared. I expected Grandma to send money like she promised, but nothing ever came. When I asked my mom, she got furious. "Are you seriously asking about money right now? Grandma is having financial trouble, Amanda. You're being selfish. Maybe get a job instead of expecting handouts," she snapped. So I did. I found work at a cafe near campus. They sometimes gave staff leftover food or let us buy old items at a discount. Still, it wasn't nearly enough. I picked up a second job writing articles for websites. Between both jobs and my classes, I barely got any sleep. Even with 2 jobs, I struggled. When the cafe closed for holidays or cleaning, I had to go without food. Once they shut down for a full week, and I nearly fainted from hunger. My roommate Sarah helped me by giving me her food and even borrowed $500 from her parents to help fix my laptop. I recorded every dollar I owed her in a little notebook, determined to repay her one day. Meanwhile, my parents constantly bragged about how well Henry was doing at college. They said he was always buried in books and exams, too busy to come home for holidays. He rarely spoke to me directly. His messages were short and vague. That was life until last weekend. It was my grandmother's birthday, and I took a bus home to attend. I didn't have much money left after buying her a small photo frame with a picture of us from my graduation, but I didn't care. I missed her. When I got to her house, the party was already buzzing. My parents were there, along with uncles, aunts, and cousins. The only one missing was Henry. "Where's Henry?" I asked, hugging my mom. "Swamped with exam prep," Dad said quickly. "He sends his love." The dining table was packed with food, more than I had seen in a long time. I sat down and quietly filled my plate, my stomach growling. Everyone was in high spirits, sharing stories and toasts for Grandma. As I was quietly eating, my cousin Tyler looked across the table. "Whoa, Amanda, you've gotten so skinny," he said. Before I could explain, my mom jumped in. "Oh, she's probably doing one of those college girl fasting things. It's trendy now." I opened my mouth to correct her, but Grandma cut in. "Tyler's right," she said, her eyes focused on me. "Amanda, you're way too thin." Then she asked the question that froze the entire room. "Isn't the $1,500 I send you every month enough to eat properly?" The fork slipped from my hand and clanged against the plate. "What money?" I said, my voice barely audible. "I haven't received a single penny since I started school." You could hear a pin drop. Everyone stared at me, then at my parents. Grandma's voice turned cold. "Robert. Elizabeth. Care to explain?" My mother's lips trembled. "Mom, this is really not the place for this. I have nothing to hide," Grandma interrupted. "Tell everyone what you did with Amanda's money. And if you don't, I'm going to the police." My mom broke down in tears. Dad looked down at his hands and finally spoke. "We've been using the money for Henry," he confessed. "He's been struggling with gambling. Got into trouble back in high school and it got worse. We tried everything, rehab, therapists, but he keeps relapsing. As my father explained, I sat frozen, my mind racing through years of painful memories. All the times I was told to be more like Henry. All the nights I worked 2 jobs while they told me Grandma had no money to send. And all the while she was sending money every month. Grandma stood, her face like stone. Everyone, please continue enjoying the evening. Robert, Elizabeth, come with me. They followed her like schoolchildren sent to the principal's office. I sat frozen. Tyler gently touched my arm and whispered, "You okay?" I couldn't even answer. I got up and quietly stepped into the hallway. I pressed my ear to the door of Grandma's office, but the voices were muffled. I caught bits and pieces. Years of lies. We tried to help him. No excuse. Half an hour later, my parents emerged. My mom's face was red and puffy. They didn't say a word. They grabbed their coats and walked out. A few minutes later, Grandma returned, acting like nothing had happened. "Who's ready for cake?" The rest of the party was awkward. Guests tried to pretend nothing had happened, but the atmosphere was cold. After everyone left, Grandma pulled me aside. "I don't think you should go back tonight. Stay here for a few days." I nodded. The idea of seeing my parents again made me sick. The next morning she made us coffee and sat me down. "I need to tell you what I learned last night," she said. "I never paid your tuition directly. I gave the money to your parents thinking it would be easier. You got a scholarship, so the total needed was $40,000. But I gave them $100,000. They kept the rest." I stared at her in disbelief. "There's more," she continued. "Henry never went to college." "What?" "They told you he was at Riverdale, but he never enrolled. They thought moving him away would fix things. It didn't. He found new people and kept gambling. I even gave him $80,000 for college, too. And on top of that, I've been sending $1,500 monthly for nearly 2 years for you." I felt sick. All this time, I thought Grandma had forgotten me. All this time, I thought Grandma had forgotten me. All this time, I was starving while they were paying Henry's debts. Grandma reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I'm so sorry, Amanda. I should have asked you directly." "What happens now?" I whispered. "You focus on school," she said firmly. "I'll send $2,000 directly to your account from now on. No more middlemen." I stayed with her for a few days. We talked a lot about my studies, my friends, and what I wanted in life. For the first time in forever, I felt heard. When I returned to school, she handed me an envelope. "For emergencies," she said. "Don't argue." With her support, I finally had space to breathe. I quit one job, bought groceries, paid back Sarah, got new clothes. For the first time since college began, I wasn't constantly tired and hungry. My grades soared. I joined a study group. Life felt normal. 2 months later, I was in the library when someone tapped my shoulder. It was Grandma, grinning. Just checking if at least one grandchild's actually in college. We went for lunch. "Over sandwiches," she said. "I've updated my will. You're now the sole heir." I nearly dropped my drink. "Why me?" "Because I trust you," she said. "Your parents already took over $250,000 from me. That was their share. They weren't happy about my decision, but I don't care." A week later, my parents showed up at my dorm. "No apology. No apology. No, how are you? Just, can you talk to Grandma about changing the will?" I refused. They begged. They guilted me. They said I was being cold. I stood my ground. "You chose Henry. Over and over. And now you're living with that decision." They left, defeated. I collapsed on my bed afterward, trembling. Sarah walked in, took one look at me and said, "That bad?" "Worse," I whispered. But I knew one thing, I was finally free. Free to build the life they never supported. Free to live for me. The next few weeks felt like walking out of a storm and into sunlight. For the first time in years, I had mental space, emotional space. I didn't have to stretch every dollar to its breaking point. I could afford to buy textbooks instead of waiting on library copies. I could eat 3 actual meals a day instead of living on coffee and toast. I bought new shoes to replace the ones that had been falling apart for months. Every Sunday, Grandma called. Her voice was calm, caring, curious. She never pushed me to reconnect with my parents. She just listened. Sometimes she shared stories from her own life, some funny, some painful. "You know," she once told me, "I was the invisible child, too. My older sister was the beauty. My younger brother was the prodigy. I was the one no one really noticed." I asked her how she got through it. "I built a life of my own," she said simply. "And I found people who saw me for who I was, just like you're doing now." Then one day my phone buzzed with a message from my cousin. "Did you hear about your parents' house?" I called Grandma immediately. "They're selling it," she said, "to pay off Henry's debts." Turns out Henry had borrowed money from loan sharks this time. And the situation was dangerous. "Do you want me to help them?" Grandma asked. I paused. I thought about it. Then I said no. They made their choices. She didn't argue. 3 months passed without a word from my parents. Their silence felt less like a loss and more like peace. School was going great. Without 2 jobs draining my energy, I could actually focus. My GPA climbed from a 3.1 to a 3.8. My professors started noticing. One of them pulled me aside after class. "Your insight in this paper is exceptional. Have you thought about applying for a research assistant role in the department?" In the past, I would have declined. Now, I said yes with confidence. That night, while working on the application, Sarah came bounding into the room waving a flyer. "Spring break trip to Miami," she announced. "You're coming with us." My first instinct was to say no. Old habits die hard. But I caught myself. "I'm in," I said. Sarah stared at me. "Wait, what?" I said I'm in. "I've been saving up. I can afford it." "You're not gonna say I can't afford it or I have to work?" "Nope," I grinned. "For once, I'm going to enjoy myself." The trip was everything I never let myself dream of. Sunshine, laughter, the ocean breeze. I bought a new swimsuit without checking the price tag. I ordered what I wanted without guilt. I even went parasailing, something I'd never imagined doing. When we got back to campus, there was a letter in my mailbox. The handwriting on the envelope made my heart drop. It was from my mother. Inside was a short message. "Amanda, we've moved into a smaller apartment. The house is gone. Henry is in rehab again. The doctors are hopeful. We know we made big mistakes. We can't undo the past, but we're proud of how strong you've become. Love, Mom." There was no real apology, just vague acknowledgement and a return address. I showed Sarah. She scoffed. "That's all they had to say? After everything?" I tucked the letter in my desk drawer. "That's all they had to say? After everything?" Not anger, not sadness, just acceptance. They were who they were, and I had stopped needing them to be different. My days filled up with classes, cafe shifts, and research work. I was busy, focused, alive. Grandma visited again in April. She took me shopping, then out to a nice dinner. Over dessert, she reached across the table and asked, "How are you really doing?" I smiled. "I'm good. Genuinely good. I never knew life could feel this simple. She nodded. It should be. Your only job right now is to learn and grow. I told her about the letter from my mom. Her eyebrow rose. Did she apologize? Not really. Just said Henry's back in rehab and they're proud of me. Are you going to write back? Not yet, I said. Maybe one day, but I'm not ready. That's fair, Grandma said, squeezing my hand. You take all the time you need. As final exams approached, I was deep in study mode. My professor hinted I might qualify for a summer research grant if I kept my grades up. That kind of opportunity used to feel out of reach. Now it felt possible. One evening as I walked back from the library, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? I said hesitantly. Amanda? A male voice asked. It's Henry. I'm calling from the rehab center. I stopped walking. My recovery plan includes making amends, he continued. I know what Mom and Dad did, using your money for me. I didn't know it back then, but it's not an excuse. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I sat down on a nearby bench. He kept talking. I'm not asking for anything. I just want you to know I'm sorry. For my part in everything. We hung up shortly after. I sat there for a long time, just watching the campus around me. Students laughing, others studying. Life happening all around me. The life I finally had access to. Henry's call was the first real apology anyone in my family had ever given me. Would he stay clean? Would my parents ever change? I didn't know. And for the first time in my life, I realized something profound. It didn't matter. Their chaos no longer controlled me. Their decisions no longer defined me. This life, this future was mine now, and I was going to live it fully. Whatever happened with them, I would be okay.